We're going.
I was listening to your podcast today.
Which one?
I listened to two. The first one was Fresh Money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Willie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite entertaining.
Yeah.
I really like the guy's energy and honesty and vulnerability.
Yeah.
I felt like he really kind of exposed like his weaknesses and sort of like came across as very relatable. And then I jumped into this, I think, resilience. That guy popped up because I think you mentioned him before, like the guy that doesn't want to be known for surviving cancer in high school.
Jake Bailey.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got a book out.
Yeah. Just like I've got an event coming, equally important.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
31st of July. Thanks for asking. So this is the event that we're doing at the Westpac building on the terrace. 5 speakers. Mike Pero is the keynote. And I'm pumped. It's called Momentum. It's all about getting energy, inspiration, walking away with both ideas and having heard from people that have either built businesses, built wealth, and as well, hopefully, the networking will be another part of it that will be equally valuable.
So what type of person is coming to this type of event?
So business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, people that want to get some energy or get like maybe a bit of like clarity, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you're at a spot that you want a bit of an uplift.
I think that's an interesting thing because you obviously do like a lot of events, and it's usually like an intimate group of sort of 12 to 16 people that come through. And the value that I've really seen in that is like the connections that you make there.
Yeah.
Because it's often when an event hasn't happened and we've done like an ad hoc sort of networking thing that you've learned so much around the people in the room, and that's led to future business. So I think there's like such a value connection and bringing those people in together in a room and networking after.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just see it as like an extension of the podcast. And I've heard so many good stories of people that have either connected with guests that have been on the podcast or like ended up doing business or.
Well, it's weird, right? Because like whenever you come to one of your events, you usually arrive a little bit early. And I don't know, when the people that are in that room, they're so open to like talking and inviting. And so there's a different sort of energy when if you're like cold calling or sales or something like this, and you don't know who the person is, that person's ready to receive you. They want to know who you are, how you can help. Like it's been awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
So I think there's some real scale that could come from this.
100%. So yeah, taking it from like those events at the loft, say like 15, 20 people, the lunches, sometimes they're like 20, 30, 40. But to go to 120, it's another level.
Yeah.
That's getting closer to that 1,000-person goal that I
good.
I think we committed to that.
Yeah.
Or I did.
You did.
And I think you did too, actually.
Definitely an event of scale, but...
What did you commit to?
Man, I'd have to listen back over, but it was probably about like half that.
I think it was an event though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And so that's something with like hiking that I'm wanting to do where you integrate people to do a workout outdoors and you sort of dive into the goals.
Yeah. So that's very cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Watch this space. But Momentum, 31st of July. So by the time this goes live, we're a little bit in the future, which is kind of weird to say. But by the time this goes live, we'll have sold out most of the tickets, if not all of them. So we'll have a wait list. So that's the goal. Yeah. So come along.
Who are the other speakers you got? Mike
so we've got Amos.
Oh, awesome. Mate, that guy's Wiz.
He is a weapon. Yeah. Michael Carabassis.
Cool.
Yeah. Simon Rowland.
Nice.
Yeah, and Lady Sasha Cohen, who's one of the Coffee Culture co-founders, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so really interesting mix of people.
Yeah. How did you source with them? Yeah, obviously know a few. But
3 of them were like friends, and then Sasha came through a connection from Logan at Westpac, and then Mike Pero was a bit of a double one there. We had an introduction to him, and then also the agency that he's with for the speaking as well. So
nice.
Yeah. So we really wanted people that had done real business in the real world. So either built businesses or wealth rather than a motivational speaker. Nothing against motivational speakers, but yeah, we wanted people that had done.
It's sort of on brand, right?
Yeah. 100%. So so thanks for coming on in. I'm pumped to talk about health and wellness and fitness and lifestyle. It's always like top of mind, right? Like I guess business and those two things, they interrelate so much. There's so many parallels.
You've talked so much about that synergy, right?
Synergy of them. Yeah. And the analogies, they're endless, right? Like money and calories and all that kind of stuff. So super relevant being the beginning of quarter 3, which is the quarter of
So what does
often
that
found.
what does that quarter three mean for you?
Well, it's been talked about for a wee while now, probably since the start of this year, if not even late last year.
Yeah.
But for me, I like having a 90-day focus. So every quarter, different focus. So whether it's health or whether it's sales or marketing or something, right?
Mm.
Just to have that overarching like theme. So yeah, we're in it. We've done it.
So the big thing for you previously with fitness is you see the importance of it, but when it comes to this 90 days, this is where its priority like bumps up.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it just looks like applying a lot more awareness, intent, and like specificity. So like it's been really good to have this amount of build up because it's allowed me to think about how to actually do that and what it means.
Yeah.
Primarily, I want to drop body fat. That's the main goal.
And so, yeah, I remember at the start of it, you sort of did drop the mic and you're like, mate, I've never achieved abs.
No.
And
Visible
how
abs.
old are you now? 40?
41.
41.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? Because on that outset, for people that sort of know you or follow you, you're very active when it comes to that running space. You got like a Monday morning run. You see me once a week. You do a couple workouts. And you've run a couple marathons this year. And so like everyone's got abs, period, right? And the difference of like seeing them is by reducing body fat overall, because it's a real common side of storage. So why is that important to you? And sort of why haven't you got there before, do you think?
So it's a twofold thing, right? Partly it's vanity and partly it's about completing a goal and closing the loop on that.
Yeah.
I see it almost like a challenge or a game, like, can I do this? Can I complete this? Because it's been like quite evasive, this goal.
Well, how many, if you sort of look back over the years, like how many real attempts have you like dialed in on it?
I mean, if I'm honest, probably no real concerted effort. I've done mediocre effort, meaning like I'll go through a phase of maybe counting calories for a while, but just really trying to reduce calorie intake and attempting to work out more. Probably the closest I've come is when doing 75 hard and getting to the end of that third phase of it. That's probably the closest I've come, which was maybe a couple of years ago.
So it sounds like sort of for you, like fitness has been a real staple for like mental health, like energy levels. But now more than ever, it's like you're coming to 41 years of age, so you want to like close that loop and sort of that. And it's okay to have like a vanity goal. People have desires around what they're wanting to achieve physically, and it's all individual. I think a big thing is usually performance based, but it sounds like you've ticked off a lot of those performance things, like the marathons were like a big thing for you, right?
Yeah, I guess running is one part of it, but for me, I'm attempting to put on muscle mass, which is, really hard because it's not naturally something I like doing, lifting weights. The running seems to come easier for some reason.
And is that where you sort of like when you're doing your runs, you come into like more of a flow state, or you find it easy it's more of a social exercise? Whereas the weight training, is that kind of like a lone wolf, sort of your own?
No, maybe. I don't know. I think it's probably, I've just done more like metaphorical reps of running. So I just find it easier to, tolerate that hard, if I'm going to choose one or the other. I think for me, like lifting weights, I just don't feel overly confident. And so I think that's probably one thing that leads me to not running in there.
Okay.
I think the vertigo hasn't helped as well. Like it's become like just hard. Yeah, it's just harder.
It's a big thing, right? And that's something that we've talked about quite a bit, is like how much our health plays a role in the outcomes or goals that we're trying to achieve. And when your health isn't there or it's affected greatly, it just makes everything so much harder.
Yeah.
So what has that vertigo sort of meant for you? How's that affected your output?
I mean, it's been really hard to not have the ability to exercise freely, first of all, like when I first had it, like late December last year, 2024, having that 2-3 week period of not even being able to walk hardly, like it was such an adjustment, like I feel that the correlation between mental strength and wellness and exercise, it's such a clear correlation for me.
It's quite foundational, right? Like if you don't have your health or a steady platform to work from,
Yeah.
like the idea of trying to be more efficient or do better just falls out the window because you don't have that baseline.
No, that's right. Exactly.
So for you, it's something that like coming into this challenge, it was something that I'd really take into account because there's this idea around perceived level of exhaustion. And so as an individual, each person's threshold varies. Every now and again, you get some extreme people that might push past their threshold and put themselves at risk of injury. And for those people, you have to like dial them in.
Yeah.
But they're your sort of like commander guys that you want to be running first into the fire to like save the person because you know they're going to do something superhuman. But it's a real small percentage. And then the large majority of us fit within that range where we kind of get to a level of pain and stop. And that pain varies. And if you have some sort of health condition that affects that, you really have to be serious about that because if I just get you doing something really difficult, you're going to go straight into that threshold and shut down, and that's going to kill the whole session. So it's about working to your tolerance and sort of finding where that ceiling is and working up to that. So I think that we've got that quite dialed at the moment where we're able to still do those hard leg sessions and the upper body sessions, but it's working to that level that you're not stopping, but you're still working hard.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to talk about that a bit more about the, would you say the perceived
level of exertion?
Yeah, and so how does that apply to, say, someone lifting weights?
Yeah,
like,
so
I guess rep range,
I
right?
think, so the key thing with that is it's something that gets thrown around a lot with people that are new to the gym environment and they're new to learning that stress that they're putting onto their body because essentially like the gym is a place where we do damage to tissue. We're getting micro tears at a muscle and we're putting ourselves under a certain level of a stress where if we eat the right things and sleep well, that muscle will repair and get stronger and grow. And so when the perceived level of exertion speaks to that person's threshold of pain and understanding that that damage, that tissue, that pain that they're feeling is like a normal part of the process. And it's almost like when someone's new to that, they've got no idea of their perceived level because the hardest thing they've ever been through is only the hardest thing they've ever been through. They don't know perception of scale. And so like if you looked at someone that's quite seasoned and does strength training or powerlifting or whatever, their perceived level of exhaustion is so high because they're like constantly putting themselves under that pain and they're really adaptive to it. Whereas someone that's new to that environment or dealing with a health condition, that'll be a lot lower threshold. So as a trainer, you sort of have to have those ongoing questions with your client, understanding where they're at and how they found that particular set or form of training or even recovery, because it's a big part of it. It's like the more someone knows what they're going to expect, the higher chance you're going to have of sustaining that person through that and walking them through that fire, essentially.
Just take a quick moment to say thank you to one of our sponsors, Gerard's Insurance. I am a Gerard's customer and I am absolutely thrilled to be working with them. They're speedy, efficient, and they just get it done. So get in touch with Gerard's. You won't regret it.
Yeah.
So a common question would be, are you better off doing 3 sets of 20 reps or are you better off doing 3 sets of 5 reps, but mega hard?
Yeah. So a great question. So that speaks to achieving a similar level of pain, but most people, especially people that are new, won't be able to do that 5 sets. What'd you say? 5 sets to 3?
Yeah, I guess like that
lower, higher threshold of heavier weights.
Yeah.
You're essentially getting to a similar level of failure, but you're achieving it far quicker. And there's almost like higher risks associated with that heavier weight because if they're not in the right position, then typically things can go wrong quickly. Yeah. So like for someone that's sort of new, doing those high ranges is like a really great way to start to build up that threshold. A lot safer in terms of their sort of protocol. They're getting great blood flow to their muscle, achieving failure, getting that stress. But as someone like develops, that's where they can sort of build their confidence and go on to that lower rep range and still get a similar or better results.
It's a good point, right, around confidence and gym, especially with regards to lifting and resistance training. Do you find that there is a correlation between the higher the confidence, the more someone is likely to go lift weights?
I think that definitely to enter the gym, like there's I think it's like Woody Allen, it's like 70% of success is just turning up. And so many people don't actually get to go into the gym because they have varying levels of anxiety, and they have this like feeling that when they're in that environment, everyone is looking at them and they're like, should they really be there? Do they have the right to be there? And this can be like crippling and prevent someone from wanting to do the thing that they set out to do. So it's really important that when people enter that environment, they understand that it's a safe space and the people actually in there, everyone is trying to better themselves. And most people, like, you could throw a stone in any direction and people going through a similar thing in their head. They're sort of in their head about things that are happening in their life. And we're all the same, really. We're all humans. We're all going through similar stresses, similar levels of anxiety. So it is a confidence barrier that prevent people getting in there. And the biggest thing is like if you engage with, say, like a PT or the staff in the gym and sort of like get your bearings, then you build your confidence and then you're sort of away. But a lot of the time people just don't even get there because they're just too in their own head around potentially being judged.
Yeah. And I think if you apply that mindset of higher reps, just getting some runs under the board, so to speak, and then working up, I think probably the mistake.
It's like I literally had this conversation with one of my clients this week, and it was like our lives are so complicated, and people, right? And it can be like troubles in your relationship, it can be a family member that might be ill, it can be a change of job, whatever it is. And sometimes the barriers to exercise can seem like it's the straw that's going to break the camel's back. And so like I really like to set challenging programs in place for people so they change the story of who they are. They get themselves out of their comfort zones and I guide them through those seas. But sometimes if someone's having a crippling week of stress, that can be a little bit too much. So I literally said to it, like, in this instance, like do what you can. And if it means that you're coming to the gym and say you're a bloke that just likes to train arms and you're just going to go straight in and do some bicep curls, some get on the tricep dip machine, whatever it is, like run to that. And like vice versa, woman, if it's anything that you like really like to do, if it means that you get in there and you start moving, that's the biggest thing. It's just like turning up. And I feel like there's a muscle or rep we kind of build or develop and actually getting there. And like, it doesn't really matter how you feel, what's going on in your life. It's just about turning up and getting into it. And when you do that, you kind of form this strength that you can do things and that habit sticks. Yeah. And that's where a lot of the results come from when it comes to consistency in the gym environment where we exert calories. And that's an important thing.
Yeah. So that is one part of it. But like you say with me, that's not it.
Yeah. So that's not your problem.
That's not my problem.
It's like it's a 3-prong, it's probably about 4-prong problem. So yeah, so 4-prong.
So real easy.
It's a table. There's 4 legs. So how it looks is like sleep is critical. For so many people, it's foundational. If they don't get a hold on their sleep, they run into some real problems. Because we burn most of our energy in our sleep. In terms of like building cells, recovery, draining toxins, like it's a key part of how we create hormones. Like it's very crucial. And then we have nutrition. Now, for you, that's probably a big part, right? Like the third prong is the output, the exercise, and then the fourth one arguably is like relationships and other factors, people that enable things in your life.
Right.
But I feel like if we look at you, it's probably like the nutrition piece has been the key component because you seem to have your output dialed in. Like you're running a lot, you're frequent with the exercise, you love to sauna. If it's -5 degrees outside, you're going swimming. Like you're kind of like into putting yourself out of comfort.
Somewhat, yeah. It's just, as I say, it's the weights lately that's been the bit that I've struggled with. But you're right. I think primarily it is the nutrition.
If we zoom out long term, it's nutrition,
it is
right?
the nutrition. And I guess for me, and I guess everyone is different in this regard, right? Everyone's got their own like leaks, quote unquote. But
and that's where you really need to look at each individual and sort of get like a fair assessment of where they're at.
100%.
But that nutrition is like such a critical piece. And I think it's like where people go wrong so much with that, if we look at a week of 7 days, and let's say you set yourself a caloric goal of just say 2,000, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you hit that 2,000 goal. Saturday, Sunday rolls around, you have like maybe it's you have your daughter in the weekend, maybe you have a family event on, maybe it's your birthday, whatever's coming up, right? And typically we find ourselves having high calories in the weekend around that extra freedom of time. Like the cupboard or the fridge can be a rotating door, like you're constantly getting up, having access to food. And so people hit like a surplus in the weekend. And what happens, and when you look at the average for the week, you probably consumed about 3,000 or 4,000 calories in the weekend. You've had about 2,000 Monday to Friday. And so when you average out that week, you're at maintenance or slightly above. And that's the reality of like why we need to track and why we need to get an idea of the calories that we're consuming.
Yeah.
It's because our body's always counting. So if we're falling into a position where we're over consuming 1 or 2 days a week and the rest of the week we're doing a really good job, like we're undoing all the good work.
Yeah.
And our body's tracking that. So it's like essential that we get a hold on what we're actually consuming. And that requires a little bit of hard work when it comes to like doing entries into like a food tracking app, or actually portioning out where you're going to get your meals from. Because if you're constantly on the go and you like we spoke about this, if you're going to restaurants and you're thinking that you're eating healthy, just eating like a steak or whatever, well, what do restaurants cook their steak in? Like dollops of butter.
Butter and oil.
Yeah. And it's like and that's flavor and it tastes great and it cooks it perfectly. And you're like, oh, I'm just eating basically carnivore diet.
Yeah.
But it's like, mate, you just had like 200 grams of butter on that or whatever. Like it blows out. And so all these little things add up.
Yeah.
And it's a crucial factor that we need to track and get a control of that. And I think that's the biggest thing that we went into this quarter for you, is really diving into the stats around how we were going to get you there with nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some barriers to entry have been like actually sitting down and entering that food into the app and how hard it can be. So for this instance, that's why we set up that meal plan where we looked at what meals we could consume to hit our goals and give you a couple of options so that you had an idea around that.
Yeah.
And usually that's the last resort, because that's kind of limiting. Like if you've only got like 1 to 2 things that you can eat, typically you're going to get bored of that over time and eat outside of the diet. But that's where if you have that versatility of being able to enter and track, then you know what you're consuming.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating to me where those calories can accumulate really quickly. So like liquid calories,
Yeah.
alcohol, especially sauces, oil, butter.
Yeah.
On the surface, I was not eating like unhealthily what a lot of people would deem, but when you add it up and when you start looking at it, it's like, it's very surprising.
Yeah. So in particular, like the oil one, right? Because it's whoever you are, you're cooking your food and you generally don't want it to stick, and you don't want it to burn because you want to like make it flavorsome. So with that, you're using some type of lubricant with your meal so it doesn't. And oils, like there's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, right? So we're getting 2 to 1 when it comes to protein or carbohydrates. And it's so easy to like chuck in an extra 100 or 2 when you're cooking something.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you want to add a little bit of flavor, maybe put some butter in, and before you know it, you've got like a high calorie meal.
Exactly.
And you're sort of like, oh no, but I counted like the rice and I counted like the chicken portion.
Yeah.
And it's like that sort of thing is where people go awry. The other side of that as well is when it comes to like their drinks, and it's really easy like to go off a cliff with alcohol, just because like the amount of like carbohydrates in there plus alcohol. So you've got a mass stacker essentially. Like if you're going out for 6 to 10 drinks, easily consuming sort of upwards of 2,000 plus calories.
Yeah. And that's just the drinks.
Yeah. And then you've got, if that's the drive-through on the way home or whatever you're having, if you're having some nibbles while you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be really problematic. And that's where if we have like a clear lens on food and we're doing these entries and we understand what we're consuming, then we can sort of make we can guarantee our results, because we're not really hiding from our stats. And that's why it's so important to form those entries, even when you do consume alcohol.
Hey, quick interruption. When I'm not podcasting, I'm working on growing Alf and working with clients as my main role as a business coach. Right now, I'm looking to meet more fellow business owners. The reason is simple. The more people I know, the more value I can bring, whether it's through coaching, the podcast, or just connecting good people. If you're based in Christchurch, let's grab a coffee. If you're further afield, let's jump on a call. I'd love to hear your story and your goals. You can book a time on our website, altco.nz. That's altco.nz. Now let's get back to the episode.
It's going to be an interesting experiment because, I mean, this is a good example of a time capsule episode, like we're at the very beginning of this quarter. I've got the scan done, so I've got some metrics.
Yeah, and I think with that, like we tried to really, as you said before, plug the leaks. And so that's making sure that we're getting an adequate amount of sleep. We're dialed in the nutrition. We've got a fail-safe, which is a meal plan option and the ability to track. With that, your output, you've like locked in that you're committing to 3 days a week when it comes to exercise. 2 sessions with me where I push you to a higher intensity, one by yourself. And then you've got a couple runs that you're committing to that are sort of standard for you throughout your week.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is around relationships and the people that we live with or we have in our life around food. Because a lot of the times that can be unconsciously undoing of our hard work. And it's not like someone's trying to sabotage you or steer you in the wrong direction, but they're where they're at with food and what they're doing can typically bring us in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So that might be going out for dinner and sharing a dessert, or the likes of opening a packet of sweets or having ice cream, or even going out with friends and being like, mate, just have a beer. And it's like, you have to have like real discussions because like it sounds so strict, and like you can actually fit these things in. You can fit these foods into your diet. There's no bad food. There's just food that causes like more inflammation than others. So alcohol, sweets, and so on. Like you can actually have that in your diet, but you have to track it and you have to be aware of that consumption factor. And it's some people like yourself really react well to that elimination diet, and it's not for everyone. We're a complex species. Some people do well with regimen, others don't, right? And for you, like you really took to 75 hard, and that idea of eliminating alcohol or eliminating a type of dessert or whatever it is and just sticking to a certain food group, you do well with that.
Yeah.
And so that environment of like telling people around you that you love and care about that you're going to commit to this for this time frame and this is the food that you're going to be eating kind of signals to them to not invite you to try other foods or eat outside of what you have plans. And that's such a supportive thing, because it kind of removes that peer pressure that you're not typically aware of. Like, because it seems so harmless to like share desserts or to go out for drinks or whatever.
Yeah.
And as I said, you can do it if you plan for it, but if you don't, like it's leading you awry because you typically will go on to like having more drinks or more food or whatever. It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope.
One tip tam leads to the end of the packet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point though, the environment and the value that places like home, work, outings, like even before at the office, there was a pack of biscuits getting passed around, right?
Dude, that's the worst one as the work environment where you do the shared tea or like where people bring in like food for the day or whatever.
Yeah.
And you might have like Sarah or Alan and they're like, oh, try my Lamington or have this biscuit or whatever. And you just, and there's people get that pressure of like, oh, I don't want to say no because it's like how they'll react or whatever. They just don't want to go for that social awkwardness. And it can set people off.
Yeah. It's funny though, the guy that was handing out these biscuits, I've actually got a side bet with him. First one to lose 10 kilos. The loser has to pay $100 to a charity they don't like.
So first to lose 10 kilos between you two?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so he was handing out the bickies. And I also caught him drinking a mocha this morning. So I'm looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. Maybe he's faking it. Maybe it's a sugar-free one.
Honestly, he's pretty smart, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he's seen it. He's caught it. Yeah, he's baiting you into like thinking that you're winning.
But then at going out for lunch today even, and it's just hilarious how easy it is to get tempted. Yeah. Right? Like fortunately the person I was with wasn't really a big drinker, but I mean, that restaurant's known for having a few Asahis. Yeah. And, you got to rub around.
First. Yeah,
it's a Friday afternoon.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because you're attacking this challenge in the middle of winter. And that's a great time to sort of like knuckle down and set goals. But a lot of clients start their challenges at different times of the year. And I had one in particular that was going through the Christmas season.
Oh yeah.
So typically like they would,
Notorious.
so the silly season, so they would go, I think they were going back to their marae, and they have like sort of 3 or 4 days of potentially like feasting where they have like big events that they put on, and there's a big outlay of food and desserts and stuff like this. And so having a plan around that is like so important, because you're going to be literally put in that environment where people are like, do you want an ice cream? And if you kind of like don't have a reason why, or like a plan in place of what food that you should be having or tracking, then you just fall into these traps of like, it's so easy to have a rubber wrist and say yes.
Yeah.
And like, I think especially in like summer, like New Zealand summers, it was like 30 odd degrees or whatever, asking if you want ice cream. And so for him to say no, people like give him the side eye and like,
Right.
what are you doing? But at the same time, they have like a real respect for the weight that he's dropped.
Cool.
And he's like been like a real influence on his like family and friends, which is an amazing thing, right?
Very
like
cool.
if like rising tides raise all boats, and when you start to like win and get a control on your health, like you can inspire others. So although it might seem weird to say no to desserts or sort of extra helpings or particular foods, like it can be really empowering because you're separating yourself because you have made a clear decision around what you want to accomplish and how you're going to get there. And that's inspiring. And that unconsciously lets other people know that you kind of got your shit together,
Yeah.
and you know how to get to your destination.
Yeah.
And if you've already yielded some results from that, they're like, how'd you do it? Like, what are you doing? What's your secret? Like, you doing that exercise, or you slim fast, you taking the shake?
What's the magic pill?
Yeah. You're doing high rocks. Like, what is it? Like, and it's literally like people really overcomplicate this.
Yes.
And there's a couple of like exceptions, but generally speaking, the main thing that everyone should be focusing on is calories in and calories out when it comes to controlling our nutrition and setting in a good routine when it comes to exercise.
Yeah.
And to sustain that, it sounds so simple that like people are like, fuck, why would we do that? Like, why should we? Like, there's got to be something else. Let's get on this new drug or
New fad.
or new style of exercise. And it's like, there's such a power in understanding how food reacts to us and the influence it has.
Yeah.
Because, mate, there's so much trickery out there. Like literally today, what was it? It was a couple of days ago. I went to the supermarket doing my weekly shop, and I like saw like a container of Milo, and it's like 15 grams of protein. I was like, shit, that's pretty good. Like, it's like childhood like favorite. I used to eat that stuff like by the packet. And you look close inspection, it's like 15 grams of protein per serve when you fill it with milk. And it's like
Very misleading.
it's very misleading. Like they're stating the fact on the container, but to the unknown consumer that's just trying to do right by their kids or their family, you go by and you think something's good for you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like such a trickery. And it's like you look at that whole category of like breakfast and cereals and where did that like come from? And it's like most of that, like I think I saw a clip of like a podcast, and they had like 3 cereals. It was like a guy was talking to a nutritionist, and it was like Sultana grain, Nutri-Grain, and like Fruit Loops or something like this, right? And they're like, ranked the most healthiest, and the Sultana grain had like the most amount of sugar out of all of them.
Wow.
And it's like that whole space of like cereals,
Healthy though, right?
of healthy fiber. They use all these like pop words on the containers or packet, and it's where we really need to have like a clear lens and an understanding of checking the back, understanding the amount of sugar per serve. Because I think it's like the limit per day is it's like 6 grams of sugar we should be having, like 6 teaspoons.
Not a lot.
It's like the total day's intake, which is about 30 grams, right?
Mm.
And it's like most of these cereals were over a whole day's worth of sugar intake. It was like 36 grams or something which is the entire daily intake.
Mm.
And it's just like, it's so misleading that people aren't aware of what they're consuming and sort of like what is healthy. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I wonder what will shift in the future with regards to regulation and, government intervention maybe. I don't know. Like, do you think that there's a world where there is a bit more transparency?
It's almost like a utopia. It's like an idea of like, how good would it be if the government really cared around the consumption of its society? Because like so much of our food, I feel like it's poisoning us, and it's a slow poison that affects us over time. And like, it's a controversial opinion, or it's confronting, but most metabolic diseases are self-inflicted when it comes to people getting into such poor health that they become pre-diabetic, or they get diabetes, or they get high blood pressure. It's like their environment and their consumption and their habits, like it's so easy if you're not happy or you're not aware of what food is doing, that it's a slippery slope to getting yourself in a position where you're over consuming every day. You're having this roller coaster ride of sugar hits, be it sort of cereal in the morning into something sweet or biscuits, morning tea, lunch, you might have like a fizzy drink or something. Yeah, some type of like snack in the afternoon, and then a high calorie dinner and then dessert. And before you know it, like you're in 1,000 calorie surplus plus every day. And like year on year, you're finding yourself put on 1, 2, 3 kilos. And it's like you get to a certain stage where you start to get these health complications that pop up, and you start to notice things that are getting quite serious. And it's such a sad place for people to fall in, because I feel like it's either that people aren't talking about this that much, or that there's just a lack of awareness and there's not really an intervention of like, okay, we need to put in place a sugar tax. Like I think one of my clients was mentioning to me, it's either Singapore or Philippines is putting in place like a sugar tax, where they're taxing their products because of the rise of diabetes that they've seen there. And like that would be such a beneficial thing to a country if they actually took the consumption habits of their people seriously, because it's ultimately a stress on the healthcare system and creates like a weak nation, right?
Yeah, I wonder why the government wouldn't commit more resourcing to that like it's not the health system, right? It's the system before that.
Yeah, it's
like the well-being system.
So I think when we think about the healthcare system, like we have like some of the best in the world when it comes to like, if you get hit by like a car or you fall off your bike, you have some sort of major trauma where you need to go in for concussion, like broken bone, whatever. Our medical services are amazing. They're like top class. But when it comes to preventative healthcare, we've got some of the worst stats globally. Like I think we're in the top 10 for obesity, and that's for developed nations.
It's not necessary, right? And I think that's the frustration for me, is that it's not necessary. Like with a bit of education and awareness.
Yeah, and I dare say like a little bit of like regulation. Like how good would it be if they know that the maximum of sugar we should be having is like 6 teaspoons a day or whatever, right? And they put that on the front of packets, and they like show that every product was over, or they had a clear, because even like they've released a pack and saves like protein shakes this week. There's a new one from Australia that's come out on shelf. I've forgotten the name of it. It escapes me.
Is it Schnack one?
Yeah, they've got like 4 or 5 flavors, the smaller sort of containers, but it's like 30 odd plus grams of sugar in it. And it's like, and it's so sweet. And it's like, everyone's trying to, people understand that protein is important for us, and they're like kind of aware that they should be increasing it. So it's almost like they're
jumping on that wagon, right?
Yeah, they're jumping on that wagon. And
yeah.
like brands are aware of this. So they're promoting it on their pack. If it's a cereal bar, if it's a packet of Milo, like whatever, they're calling it out, and they're making it very clear that this is high in protein.
Yeah.
But then they're also like back-ending it with a lot of sugar. And it's like, it's not healthy for us to be in this roller coaster ride of constant insulin spikes. Like it's very damaging. And so I feel like it comes down to like awareness in sort of schools and grassroots that there needs to be in like, definitely in schools, like we need to be taught to a high level, like what foods we should be eating and what is going to optimize our health the most. Because it's a terrible thing.
Yeah. I guess if you look at it from my perspective and how I've been unable to close this loop, so to speak, when it comes to body fat, essentially.
Yeah.
and I'd like to think I'm relatively well informed and curious and passionate about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that that's what when we sort of examined like what you were eating on the daily, it was like very clear initially that you were under eating in protein. And like most people are, because they think they are. They might be like, oh, I have a couple of eggs in the morning. Excuse me, I might have some sort of ham or meat in my sandwich for like lunch. And then dinner, typically I'll have like another portion of protein, which might be a thing of chicken or steak or whatever. And when you add that all up, like in reality, under like 80 grams of protein throughout the day.
that's it.
And like the standard should be like a 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight minimum. And then for someone that's working out and doing resistance training or a form of intensive exercise, at least 2 grams per kilo body weight. And like, what are you currently weighing?
92.
92. So like 184 grams of protein that we should be consuming, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you're far off that.
Yeah, you don't accidentally hit that.
And like when you do hit it, and when it's like, firstly, it's hard because it's a major shift in lifestyle and you feel like you're stuffing yourself with protein. But when you do, you feel full all the time.
Definitely.
And
I've noticed that.
And your cravings like drop off because your body's not on this constant roller coaster ride of sugar that you're having throughout your day.
Yeah.
Like your blood sugar levels are stabilized, which is a really great thing for feeling full and causing satiation.
I've really noticed that.
Yeah. And when you adhere to that, then you stop like buying emotionally or falling into like, I've spoken about this before, but when you go to do groceries on an empty stomach versus like feeling after a meal, like you buy far less.
Yeah.
And you just don't have those emotional triggers. So like when you're out with family or at events and you know what you're doing with food, you don't crave those sort of snacks and it's easier to say no.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but I'm feeling good about it so far. I know it's early days.
I'm confident. And why I'm confident is because we have that WhatsApp chat going.
Yeah, that's cool. That's handy.
And like a big part of that is accountability and having that open dialogue with your coach. So for you to send me through that you've done your daily step count and like you're gamifying it where you're aware of what your need is, because we set you a challenge of like 15,000 steps, right?
Yeah, and that's another part of it, the NEAT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so most people don't know what the hell NEAT is. They
No.
think it's something about like being in order or looking tidy.
Neat and tidy.
But the reality of NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is a fancy way of saying the movement that we do in a day that isn't planned exercise. And a big part of that is the steps that we contribute to. So that final step count, like technology's made it easy for us to be aware of our habits. And if you can't afford or you don't use like a Fitbit or Garmin watch or whatever, like if you've got an Apple phone, got Apple Health, or you can download a really cool app called Pacer. It's a real simple one to track your steps.
Yeah.
And that's like from when we're awake, 70% of the energy that we expend is in our NEAT. So if we understand what we're doing on average, we can increase that by, say, a percentage of 25%. And if you do that Monday to Sunday, you're effectively doing an extra day and 3/4 worth of exercise per week. And that's a compounding effect. That's a big thing. It's a big deal. So if people are out there listening and they're sort of like thinking about how they can start off their journey of output when it comes to energy, just dialing up their NEAT is a massive way. And it sounds like too good to be true because
easy, yeah.
it's simple.
It is simple.
But like we tend to overcomplicate things and make it seem like you got to have this crazy diet and do this crazy form of exercise and all the rest of it to get the thing that you want. And if you're just trying to achieve a higher output of energy, just dialing that up and committing to that daily is going to have a massive effect. And so for you, we set the target of 15,000 steps per day, and you've like really dialed that in where you've almost gamified that. Like in that chat you telling me the other day where you try and achieve a certain distance because you're aware of what you're doing. And so that might be a speed. You've started to increase the speed and we started to play around with the incline, or you like listen to a podcast during that time when you're on there. So you're kind of learning while you're doing things. I've even got other clients that I work with online where I encourage them to make business calls.
Right.
Like if they're like this, I guess falls into that synergy between business and health. But if you're spending sort of 30 minutes to 45 minutes going for a walk daily and you're sort of by yourself and you got a list of clients that you need to engage with or calls that you can sort of check in, what a great time to sort of like two birds with one stone.
Totally.
As like you go for a walk and you make your calls. And then like all of a sudden you're like optimizing your business from a sales perspective or checking with your clients and just building rapport and showing a real interest in them and like a daily habit that compounds. Because like how good is it to optimize the time that we have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It's like stacking the chips in the right direction.
Yeah.
You're betting on yourself to win.
It feels a lot more under control this time, and it feels like there's real clarity when it comes to these different pillars.
Yeah.
I wonder what could go wrong.
You've said this. You've asked me this before, and my mind always goes to like trying to like answer the question. Like, and in this, I think beyond you getting hit by a car, touch wood, or like seriously injured or some health complication that we can't foresee, like we're going to yield a good result. And that's because we know that your consumption is on point, and we've spoken a lot about that nutrition. We've dialed up the needs. We've committed where it's non-negotiable, the weight sessions that you're putting in, and you've had a discussion with the people that are close to you regarding the challenge that you've set yourself. So we've closed the loop, so to speak, like beyond something in your health falling drastically out and you not being able to commit to the needs or the output, like, or commit to the diet. Like that's the only thing I can sort of perceive from you not getting the result that you want, which is pretty good, right? Takes the guesswork out of it.
I think that's the big takeaway here. Distilling these challenges down.
Yeah, and like and that's making it simple. Like, and for you, like over this period, like we're gonna review your weight dropping, and we've got the ability for you to check in with scans. So we've got we can make those adjustments. And so sometimes, like if we're not seeing the result that someone wants for their weight or their reduction in body fat, it's where you play with these levers of output or input. And it's a lot harder to dial up the output if you're already working close to your maximum potential. And typically it makes you hungrier because you're expending more energy, but it's really easy to sort of make small changes on the nutrition. So we might find that your caloric goal that we set changes over time, but because we've got a control over it and we don't have these big expansions in the weekend, like making a subtle change of a calorie reduction by 200 or 300 calories shouldn't be such a big deal. Because I think if we, for example, you're around 350, if we take like another 300 calories off and put you on 2050, you're still going to find yourself being quite full and satisfied throughout your day.
Right.
And so, but that'll have like a compounding effect.
Right.
Especially when we look over that for 7 days, because you're effectively going 300 times 7, 22,100. You're almost like getting rid of a day's worth of food when you look at over a week or a month. That's 4 days. So it has a big compounding effect. And that's where, and it's like saving. It's like anything, right? We're taking the guesswork out of it. We're putting away an allocated amounts of calories in, and we're controlling it. And that's the power. Is like when you get a control over what you're doing, that's when that confidence starts to rise. Like people will start to see changes. Like typically, because we see ourselves every day, when we shower or bathe or whatever, you don't really notice these subtle changes. But it's usually the people that you haven't seen. Well, it's usually the start. It might be like your clothing that doesn't fit starts to fit differently. You might be a little bit loose around the waist, or a top that was fitted, you might be not as fitted. And then it might be like someone that hasn't seen you in a while starts to notice that your face is a little bit different, or how your body shape is, and usually you're the last person to see those changes. But like if you're working with someone like a personal trainer and they're able to sort of check your weight progressions or have you do scans, then you can really see that trajectory going down. And that's the cool thing is you kind of make it simple, because everyone should be at the level that they want when it comes to their health and exercise. As like everyone can get control over it if they know what they should be doing. And typically like having someone to hold your hand or guide that process is a real benefit and strength in that.
Totally. Yeah. I remember when we were talking the other day about calorie targets, and I mentioned that it's relatively easy so far. And it was quite interesting what you said about not recalibrating too early, like not decreasing that target too early, because it may lead to non-compliance, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes I run into people that I'm not working with yet, and they sort of go into what they're doing. And like you can have like radical weight loss if someone takes on board like a 40-50% deficit, but the ability to sustain that long term is damn near impossible unless you're a psychopath, because like you're going to be under so much stress and so short because you're starving yourself a 50% deficit. And like a lot of the times when people try and rapidly drop the weight, they're getting an unhealthy relationship with food, because they start to obsess about the food that they can't have that's higher calories. And then when they do, after like maybe they get to their weight goal or whatever, and the floodgates open, like it's hard to like stop that flow. And like I've been down that road before with competing and bodybuilding, where you're trying to get your body to a very low fat percentage. Because it's a part of the sport in terms of like showing as much definition and the muscle, and that really low body fat percentage. To do that, you are curving towards that larger deficit whilst controlling like your protein intake and healthy fats. And it's like as soon as like the event is over, like so many people reverse diet very poorly. They don't have the same protocol that got them to that place. And they typically blow out and put on rapidly, like anywhere from 3 to 10 kilos in a week is not that absurd.
Wow.
A lot of that is like water weight, but they're definitely like gorging on super high calories because it's just been so restrictive. And that has a flow-on effect negative towards like hormones as well.
Right.
And so like, as an example, someone that I'm working with at the moment, he's dropped like 30 odd kilos, and he worked himself down to like a 2,000 odd deficit. I think it was like 1.9 at the very lowest point. And now he's back up to like 2,800 calories without any more weight gain when it comes to that fat. And that's why it's so important that like as we get to the end of this and we achieve that result for you, we have a plan coming out of it, because you reverse diet out. So you incrementally increase the calories on the way out of it, so that you don't put that same level of fat on, and don't sort of blow the dams on all this good work and these habits that you've established over the 12 weeks. It's sort of crucial.
So when you talk about deficit, and this is a question I got asked to ask you, is how do you set your daily calorie target? Both, like, what is the baseline? What's that calculated on?
So there's really good algorithms out there, and the one that I take into account is age, height, weight, level of activity. So if someone, how many times of the week they're going to the gym, if they've got like a physical job, or if they're doing sort of any extra cardio on top, and gender. So those 5 stats, we can work out an algorithm of putting in of what their baseline will be, and then we work a percentage off. So I really like to start people at like a 20 or a 25% deficit and see how they establish that habit. Because initially for a lot of people, like controlling their caloric intake is a big step in itself. And so what I mean by that, like even just like recording what you're having or trying to walk to a protein goal, it almost seems like too overwhelming. Because if you go to like not tracking at all, and then you get someone to like start putting inputs to their food, they're completely changing the way they think about food. They're actually like recording, getting an understanding, and then very quickly they'll realize that they're under eating and macros of if it's their healthy fats or protein, or they're overeating in carbohydrates. So actually having a lens on that is a big thing. And then from there, trying to sustain under all that number as a new thing. So usually like I set someone like a sort of a 2-week grace period where they're buying the right things and trying to hit their protein goal and staying under the deficit. But to come back to your question, like starting at 20 or 25% is a really healthy place. You can literally look online. There's a lot of places where they'll have that algorithm set up for you to enter in those stats and find yourself a deficit. And then from there, you can look to sustain it and just see how the rate at which you're dropping weight. So if you're sort of dropping within that range of 250 grams to a kilo, is a pretty healthy range. Anything beyond that, it's probably too low, or you've really underestimated your output. And then you react to what you're doing with your weight, like how your weight is falling.
Yeah, it's something that I've struggled with, is the counting calorie thing. And I feel that one reason I've been able to do it this time is that I've given myself enough mental preparation to get prepared for it.
Yeah.
Both practically speaking, but also just preparing.
So do you feel like a big thing is because you have so many like spinning plates, right? When I say spinning plate, you got so many things in your life.
Yeah, you're right.
And I feel like for a lot of people and yourself, it's like prioritizing the right things and like having yourself like a time frame where you're like, right, the next 12 weeks, like when it comes to my relationship with food and making sure I get in these workouts, like I'm going to prioritize that over potentially other things that might compromise.
Somewhat, I think, like you said before about the straw that breaks the camel's back, I think in the past I've just put it in the territory of like, I've got so much other priorities. The last thing I want to be doing is stressing out about how many calories is in this thing. Do I have to track? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think just having that runway has helped this time.
Well, yeah. And I guess like having someone work that out for you.
Totally.
And sort of like walking you through that process and having that feedback board where you're like,
absolutely,
freaking sending me photos of like your lunch that you had, like if you said brisket or chicken or whatever, like these things, like it allows you to have someone along for the journey.
Yeah,
and like
very helpful.
And you don't have that sort of like doubt around what you should be doing.
Yeah,
because like everyone can enter into getting a control on their nutrition or output through exercise. You don't have to have someone by your side, but it just makes it so much more easier in terms of eliminating that guesswork.
Yeah.
And that's where like it's an investment in your health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like you're investing in you're setting yourself up to like a destination that you're working towards in terms of the time frame, but you're learning along that journey. And those habits is something that should stick ongoing, like long term. Because if at the end of this challenge, you're like, man, I'm really like happy with my results from where I got to, then it's like you want to adhere some of that going forward. And so I feel like it's a really good investment.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I feel like with the, chats over the last, say, 3-6 months around like accountability and messaging and just that, like the fact that we can benefit so much from some accountability. And it's weird how, the recipient of the message doesn't even need to respond, right? It's just that process of having someone to share what you're up to. It works.
Well, yeah, like feeling like you're not on your own.
Yeah.
Having someone that like cares or knows what you're trying to accomplish and can see that you're checking in and that you're doing the work. Like it goes a long way to like supporting the process so that you actually get to the place where you want to.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing that I found with like personal training is like, I love like one-to-one, and so much of my business is people and getting to know people on a real human level and being like a soundboard for what's going on in their life and being able to sort of like lean in without any sort of bias on what they're going through and just sort of like provide feedback and help them at the same time work hard, make better decisions around food so that they get what they want physically. But I think like the big thing to actually scale and help people is sort of taking that online to that accountability coaching messaging where it's like you don't always have to have that physical input. Like I think I always will have that'll be a part of my business because I just like enjoy people and being around them.
Yeah.
And like, it's really cool to like change the story around someone.
Yeah.
To change the idea of what they think they can do and seeing those moments. But at the same time to like scale something and really help as many people as you can, like that element has to go online.
Yeah.
Where you sort of, you have the ability to give the knowledge to people that are trying to achieve that particular goal and be a part of that journey so that you can answer questions along the way and they feel supported in that space. So that's definitely like a place where my business is growing into, and working with a few people at the moment and in that accountability coaching space and getting some real results, which is cool because it's like, mate, there's so many, our lives are so complicated. I said it earlier, but there's so many things that happen that derail you when it comes to you being consistent with output or controlling your intake. And if you have that front of mind where someone's like checking in with you and you know you're going to be asked about those tasks that you agree to and doing, like, and there's a weight in that and there's a power in it. Because like everyone hates like just like not delivering, right?
Absolutely.
Like
yeah,
you feel like shit. Like it's
nobody wants to be that guy.
No
right?
one wants to be in a negative loop.
100%.
And for most people, it's easier to think about like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Like I'm going to be better tomorrow. Monday, I'm going to start the thing. I'm going to drop that bad habit and I'm going to start doing it Monday. But Monday never comes. And the best time to start is now. And that's where if you have someone that's in that loop with you that closes off in terms of that accountability, you've got such a higher chance of actually achieving the result that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, I feel like goals change over time. So like it's really normal for people to achieve a certain level of weight loss and be like, okay, what now? And that's where you, just like anything in business, like when you accomplish the thing that you're setting out to do, it's like you set yourself new things. And so I've had multiple people take part in like full Ironmans, like huge like weight loss transformations, strength training. I'm working with a guy at the moment who went through extreme weight loss and he could only like deadlift something like 30 or 40 kilos when he just started out. And just recently he's hitting like 190 kilos for like 4 reps.
Whoa.
Which is massive, right?
That's so massive.
You literally, if you're never known for like bringing it like a strong dude or a big dude or whatever, and then all of a sudden like people are like commenting like how you look and coming up to you in a different way and making remarks. It's like a real culture shock because you basically transform your identity or how people see you and you still feel like the same person. And so there's a certain level of like sometimes dysmorphia that takes place when people go for these big changes. Because they're like, you turn into something else.
Yeah, I think a little bit of validation goes a long way, meaning if you're on that journey and you start seeing results or you start getting a little bit of positive feedback, I think that keeps the flywheel moving. And
yeah, it's definitely a piece of it. Like obviously a lot of your goals need to be like personal to you and you're really competing with yourself. And it is like a bit of a noise how like people see or react to you because that's extrinsic. That's not in you.
True.
So it's like tidbits. Like it helps. It's a little like tick or like can be like a nice feeling, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you're sticking to something, establishing it, and you're doing what you set out to.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I guess it's just additional fuel, right?
Yeah, it's additional fuel. But look, people are all different. Some people like get real hyped and motivated from the people around them.
Right.
Whereas some people like they'll just like ultra runners or people that set these sort of extreme tasks, like they don't need anyone there to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So like there's a different psychology in sort of what sort of metrics people need.
Yeah. It is interesting, right?
Mm.
I almost quite like the opposite, right? Of posting about it or sharing it sometimes. Doing something difficult, right? Like whether it's the beach swim or an early morning run in the rain or something like that. Like
The online commitment, eh?
Yeah.
Well, it's such an individual thing. It's like what motivates you. And I think there's something to some people really benefit from, like speaking to a crowd or having a group awareness around what they're trying to achieve, because they don't want to let the people down that how they perceive them. But other people, it's a variance.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is what this is, right? This is a form of public accountability.
For sure.
Talking about it on the podcast. And so I guess it's about decreasing the chances or the facts that could lead to not doing it.
Well, I think my hope is in sort of like really like fleshing out what you're doing or talking about it, having this conversation with you, is the hope that we can sort of inspire more people
100%.
or like make them aware that like it doesn't matter. Like for the longest time, there's been this opinion that aging is kind of not like a death sentence, but it's like it's a downward slope.
Yeah. And I can't because I'm X age or
like the people
Can be
start
an
to,
excuse,
people
right?
get this level of acceptance where they're like, oh, I'm at this age, so I can't do Y or I can't do this or X or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that's not true at all. And for the larger majority of people, like why they're not as fit or active as they were when they're in their 20s is because they've become sedentary or have more responsibilities in their life now. Like if you go from being a active student that's like taking part in sports groups and going out with friends because you're single or whatever, and you're moving around a lot, like you're expending so much more energy and maybe you don't have much focus or importance on food. But then you fast forward to like maybe you've got like a family of 2 and you're running a business and your business requires you to be in your computer for 6 to 8 hours and you're sitting down a lot, then you don't have time for that sort of extra curriculum, and you don't have time to maybe prioritize your meals. You're sort of like going with what's ad hoc you can have on the road. And then you're having you've got a lot more stress in your life. So you feel like alcohol is an outlet for that, or a social thing that's what your peers do is they go out for drinks. And it's like all these habits add up. You're moving less, you're consuming like higher calorie food, you've got higher stress in your life, and you're enabling, say, bad decisions around food and drink as an outlet for stress. And it's like, because of this, that's why we're putting on weight. That's why we're finding it harder to get up. We're making noises when we get off the couch, whatever it is. But like the reality is like if you get a control on your foods, or you find a way to manage like your meals, because it is hard. Like if you've got kids or a big family that like, and you're preparing for many people, it requires an extra level of discipline, because effectively you're eating outside of what you might be preparing for people.
Yeah.
So it requires like some real focus and commitment, and it's going to be tough. But if you do that and you start to lose the weight and gain the strength from the added NEAT that you're committing to every day, so that those steps, and you're doing consistency in those workouts, and you're seeing a bit of progression and you're getting stronger and doing more reps because you're tracking it on some type of app, then you start to get a hold on your health. And all of a sudden you can get like a second wind at 30 or 40 or 50. And that's amazing, because like life comes from us. And so we're able to inspire people around us, and all of a sudden it's like you're a different person. But if you just like let what life comes at you and you think that like it's out of your control, and you're kind of in this phase of just going from work to home to out for drinks, and then every year you put in a couple more kilos, then you're going to believe this thing that you're telling you, that you're aging, and that's the reason why that everything's harder.
Yeah.
But it's because we're not getting a control on the things that we absolutely can do. And so there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And there's so much noise online that's so confusing for people when it comes to food, and like, don't use this oil because it's a seed oil. Don't use this thing because it's got preservatives in it or a certain pesticide. And it's like, the reality is like those things are like the top percentile. Like if you get rid of all the endocrine disruptors in your foods and plastics and whatever, like what are you really sort of left with? And it's really overcomplicating the process. So I feel like the being scared of like oils and like your plastics and your sweets and alcohol and all the rest of it is like, it's kind of like that very top end, like you're a highest level performer and you're trying to eliminate things that might cause some level of inflammation in your life. But for the majority of people, let's keep it simple of like setting a protein goal, setting a calorie goal, like showing people how they can track their calories so they can make better decisions around food.
Yeah.
And then just setting a simple, neat goal, like a step count per day that they work towards, and ideally some resistance training. Like if you do those 3 things, you're going to be on the road to success and you're only going to get better. But if you overcomplicate it and make it seem so hard for people to entry because this thing's wrong for them, this thing's wrong for them, then it's like people aren't going to start. They're going to quit. They're just going to be like, oh, I can't drink water because it's got chlorine in it. Like, what am I going to do? You know?
This is why I'm passionate about your program, about the accountability program,
Yeah.
because it helps wrap those 4 elements together for someone that may or may not have any idea what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it's about trying to make it seamless and streamlined so that people get the result that they want and they take the guesswork out of it. Because the last thing you want is paralysis by analysis. We don't want to overcomplicate the process so we never start. And if you have clarity and you know what you're doing and you start to like optimize and you feel better, then we can make these extra tweaks. But for now, let's just see some progress.
Yeah, 100% agree. So good. I'm pumped.
Mate, I can't wait to see the big reveal. I feel like you're going to have to do a run in your jocks, like a half marathon in your jocks around Christchurch.
Did you see the dude, Dan Martell? Did you see the reveal when he did something similar like this?
No, tell me.
Oh, he did like a, I'm not sure if it was the same duration or if it was a different length, but he essentially did something similar.
Grundy run around Christchurch.
Grundy run. No, he went to Mexico and did like a photo shoot.
Oh, cool.
At the end.
Oh, wow.
Got all oiled up and got some photos.
So we're going to see some pics here in Ibiza or something?
Maybe. Watch the space.
Yeah.
Trip to Ibiza? Yeah, maybe.
Could be that.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you just got back from Thailand.
Thailand, yeah.
How was that?
Thailand again. Thailand was good. Yeah.
Did you go back through Asia?
Definitely. Yeah. I'd be keen to see more and just explore around a bit more and see other parts. Yeah. You been?
The closest I've been is Indonesia. So like Bali. Yeah. So basically like a second Australia when you go to like Seminyak or Kuta.
That's what I've heard.
Or whatever. But yeah, I'd love to get a, if we're talking Asia, probably like Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Just for like the culture seems like real rich and like I love ramen. So
you do too.
The place of it.
Yeah. What's the calories like in ramen?
High. Yeah. So like 1,000 to 1,500.
Wow.
Yeah, because like the base of it is a broth. So you're talking about a lot of like fat and collagen from around the joints that they cook.
Right.
And fat is so flavorsome, right? Like it's kind of like the main part of the dish, and then you throw in the carbohydrates and.
I mean, that's a great example of a product or a food that, someone that's not informed like myself, like I had a feeling it may be high, but I had no idea it was that high.
Yeah. So that's like a traditional one that's like cooked in the sort of the slow cooked broth where you're actually got a lot of that collagen in there from the joints.
Like I can imagine a lot of people just thinking like, oh, it's, it's like noodles. It's basically water. Like it's probably not many.
Yeah. The thing is like if you're adding fat to anything, that's where like calories really climb.
Yeah.
But it's eye-opening, man. Like, and that's where there's devices today where you can put these entries in to track, and it takes the guesswork out of it. And there's like the secondary part that can be a little bit confusing for people, and it's like is that sugar component. and how like sugar works with the body in terms like, and we spoke a little bit about this at the start, where if you only should have about 5 grams of sugar in your bloodstream at any one time. When you go over that and you have more of abundance of it, like you get the spike of insulin to lower your blood sugar levels, and that sort of can kick in that roller coaster ride of like hunger cues. And so there's an element of trying to reduce refined sugar, ideally, like from our diets, but there's some like caveats that will rule with having protein with it, or high fibrous sort of food. But ideally, we want to lower our refined sugar and sort of keep those more compound carbohydrates present. So stuff that we find in like stuff that's grown in the ground, fruit, vegetables, ideally.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Food.
Man, so good.
Yeah.
A lot of information there.
Yeah. What do you get? How are we gonna do your big reveal? We're just gonna do some photos.
Get in here.
Well, there's a big whiteboard.
I don't feel comfortable with that.
Real?
Unless I'm super jacked. Maybe then, but even then, probably not.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's the you got to be comfortable in your own skin, right? And if you're achieving some good results, there's always a comfort in being in your board shorts or whatever by the ocean. I think that's a pretty safe space.
Yeah.
Maybe do a photo shoot with the beach in sight.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I'm confident. I don't know, just like one of those things because it's never been done before. It's leading to some uncertainty, but I'm trusting the process.
Yeah. But as I said, like it's fail safe in terms of the results as we transition, and we'll be making adjustments as we go, as our sort of weight drops.
I think with that in mind, I believe that a lot more people would probably try and take on a challenge like this if they realize that it's not necessarily easy, but it is simple.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing, and like you, what's made it easier for you to commit to this is by setting up a time frame. So like you've put aside 3 months, which is like a good amount of time to see some real results in. But if someone knows that they're not going to have to do something forever, and it's enough to just get them to start, it can be like you can really form a habit and get that momentum going. And if like 3 months is too much for someone, like 21 days, like just think how you would feel by controlling your calories, increasing your output, and just setting yourself that small goal that's you can see the finish. You can set it up in your calendar. You start it from the start of the month to the 21st, and then you make the call if you want to continue. And I reckon 9 times out of 10, people that get that momentum going, they're not going to stop something that's making them feel better. So it's just like setting something up that's palatable enough for someone to take a bite out of and sustain to it.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
If anyone's in Christchurch, in person, sessions available anywhere globally now, you can work with them.
Absolutely. So you've been really good to me in terms of being a powerful component of what I do. And so I'm really grateful for that, for the connections that I've made through you. But yeah, anyone in Christchurch that's in person that wants to set up like a free consultation where I'll literally take an hour deep dive into getting an understanding of where you're at, your exercise history, what you've been through, any sort of barriers that you've faced in the past, even explaining what an average day looks like for you when it comes to your current nutrition, and then going through like an exercise assessment, which is like how the body moves. That's all free. So like I'm willing to invest my time to people to set them up on the right tracks. And then from there, if they want to take the next step where they have me engaged with them within that space, then we'll make it happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
How good. Appreciate your time.
Always, mate.
Thank you.
Have a good one.